without much further ado, I know, especially the media team, you're waiting for this moment for us to welcome Dr. Chee Soon-Juan, none other than our Sec-Gen. He will be catwalk down. Okay, Dr. Chee will be taking questions. So please raise up your hand and I will come to you with the mic. Do you want to say something?
No, only just to thank everyone again, just to repeat the thank yous to everybody that's made this occasion very successful, as well as to all of you who are here today. And I've said before that if the speakers have done their jobs, and I believe, and from what I've heard, they've done an excellent job, there'll be very short Q&A, right? But it's really good to see all of you here, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them, as well as to refer them to Paul, Naresh, or Ben.
Hi, Dr. Chee, Yun Zhou from Zaobao here. It was impressive seeing the manifesto launch today. Just like to find out, after so much effort being put into this preparation for the upcoming GE, what would be a good result for the SDP at the next elections?
You know, I've said this very often before. For us, we're in a very different situation. We're in fighting in elections, not in a democratic system, but in a very authoritarian, anti-democratic one. So for us to look ahead and talk about results, I think we're missing the point. We continue to work to bring the message to Singaporeans that democracy is indeed important here for Singapore. And that despite the climate of fear, we continue to push ahead, we continue to put forth our vision, the policies that come with it, in the hopes that we can paint for Singapore an alternative, that they can see what a democratic future is like, something that captures, includes hope, not just for yourselves, but for your children. And that's hugely important. And I hope Singaporeans are able to see that in not just this elections, but I think what Ben has alluded to, we cast our eyes beyond and in the years and decades ahead, because democracy never comes easy. So we don't think in terms of, you know what people say, right? A politician thinks of the next election. A statesman thinks of the next generation. And that is what we're all about. Right? We want to be able to make sure that our children are able to grow up, to be able to enjoy the fruits of a free and open society where the government is transparent and accountable. That's what this manifesto is all about. It lays out that long-term vision that we have, and I hope that you continue to take it and spread the word from here.
Hi, Dr. Chee, I'm Deborah from CNA.
Hi.
I would just like to follow up on what Naresh said just now during his speech. He mentioned that the Young Democrats were pretty involved in coming up with some of the policies. So I was just wondering whether the Young Democrats had vastly different ideas from the senior members, and how do you all arrive at, putting all the ideas into a policy?
When we come together as a party, this distinction between senior Democrats, women Democrats, young Democrats, very artificial, is a very artificial one. Very often, when we interact, when we put ourselves together as a party, I like to use the word organism. You know how it is, right? We're all organisms, right? The left hand doesn't do something that the right hand doesn't want to do. And that's why when we come together, it's always been this, the lines are very blurred, and there's a meeting of minds in that we know what we really think is important for Singapore. And that is something that I think the Young Democrats, although they have, within their own circles, they have a very different emphasis in terms of their outlook and in terms of their conversation, their discussions. But by and large, I think a lot of times, we're all together in this one big push to look for a more caring government, a more consultative one, one that is just a more transparent and accountable to the people, and it's all in our manifesto. But in terms of, say, climate change to the younger generation, sometimes I think we tend to miss out on this. My kids, who are in the teens right now, feel it's something that is very urgent, and because it's going to be a society that they're going to inherit. And I think it would do well for us in the older generations to pay heed and really listen to them and find the urgency in these matters as well. Okay.
Hello, Dr. Chee. I have two questions. You've been engaged in elections against the Goh Chok Tong government, the Lee Hsien Loong government, and this time it might be up against the 4G leaders of the PAP. Can you tell me what you expect to be different about this election with the different leaders in charge on the other side compared to what you've been through? That's question one. Question two is, what do you think are the main obstacles towards this aspiration to forming an opposition coalition, and how they can be overcome?
Again, I come back, the anchor to this event and the answer to your question really is about our manifesto. I don't mean to make it very cheesy, but it really, if you think about it, it is this 4G generation of leaders that have become very dislocated from society. I've heard going out about in our walkabouts and our house visits over and over again. They know, they can instinctively tell you that life is getting tremendously difficult for them. And yet, you see this government having absolutely no clue as to how they go about their daily lives. Whereas if you think of the older generation of ministers, they've come through the difficulties of nation building. Many of these present generation of ministers have had it good all their lives. And they think that every Singaporean lives like them. And that's where the problem is. And that's where we come in. And we want to crystallize all our thoughts and our ideas in as far as pushing for the future is concerned in this manifesto. So it's again something which we want to be able to do and tell Singaporeans to take forth. And this is our challenge to this present set of ministers. Going ahead, looking ahead, Singapore cannot continue the way that we've been doing in the last 50 years. If we think that our past holds the key to our future, then we're in a lot more trouble than I think we are. Because we're living on past successes. And we're not bold enough to look at a changing and changed world. And I've said this very often. And it's in our economic chapter in the manifesto. Previously, people say democracy, that's a Western liberal idea. We're beginning to find out that without democracy, without openness, without the ability to dissent, question, challenge authority, you cannot become a creative and innovative society, right? Because those traits, those qualities, are very much dependent on our ability to be able to function in a free and open society. That is why you don't find your J.K. Rowlings, you don't find your Steve Jobs, you don't find your Bill Gates coming from North Korea. Right? I give you a very simple truism. Our challenge right now is to make sure that in the coming 10, 20 years, that we start putting together a society, people who are able to then take the lead, rather than a few select individuals within the ruling party. This present model cannot go on, not if we want Singapore to survive and thrive in the years ahead. And this is why we continue to advocate, and we're going to continue to put these policies out, this manifesto out, this vision out, so that we can begin to achieve a future that we can all live in prosperity and continue this progress. As to your second part of your question, Bertha, remind me, what was it again?
The obstacles in the way of putting together an opposition coalition, or are they being overcome now?
Yeah, I guess, things like that, it's still in motion. Things are still in discussion, and we will make that, the information public as we go along. But, we'll still continue to be working out all the different kinks, I suppose, and making sure that we come up with a more united, more cooperative front. To what extent, I won't be able to tell you right now, except just to tell you that it's a work in progress.